So recently got to have a conversation with Michael, who is approaching that really fundamental space of subject object when it comes to a sensation that he's feeling right here, very close to the navel in the gut, that seems to be common for those of us who are along the journey to awakening and further into liberation. This particular journey has a lot of insights, and for those of you that are along the way, maybe there's something here that you will find familiar. And for those of you who are beginning to explore this, maybe there's something within this particular conversation that will encourage you to continue engaging more and more, deeper, and to get closer and closer. Enjoy.
Yeah, so interesting conversation to go into it as opposed to kind of, although I did like the approach of trying to approach my resistance with kind of an open aperture at the same time and hold the two at the same time, which was kind of a fun, not fun, but an interesting thing to hold the two things at once, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then your view was, yeah, okay, that's great. That's kind of training wheels. And then now it's time to jump in, was kind of your view, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to subtle identification. That's all.
Yeah.
It's now it's refusing to take a position that has to be imposed, that has to be made up. No
Like
position
me taking a position of open aperture or any doing.
or watching from where.
Who's watching? Yeah. Even asking the questions.
You've been asking the questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you my experiences then. That might be more useful than my strategy, because I should probably get away from strategy. So,
Yeah, it'll start to happen on its own. Just be open with it. You know what I mean? If
so
we
here's
establish a strategy that is a formula, it'll end up becoming an obstacle.
okay. So I was using my breath a little bit because I was feeling I was shallow breathing. And I was breathing in and then breathing out, kind of finding out where the next place for my awareness to go. And then breathing into that awareness and then breathing out, kind of like to recalibrate, but maybe that's too calculated.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky here, but it's like a losing awareness in a way.
By focusing on the breath, or what's losing awareness?
That's that's where this how it tends to show up. In other words, if we're holding on to awareness, then there's an identification happening. So lose that too. Lose an awareness of everything.
Okay, so it's not like you become aware of being aware, or
Right.
I do feel called to certain things, or maybe that's just my mind tricking me, but it feels like there's a truth. And I know it sounds weird, but I've had this kind of thing in my lower dantian, 2 inches below my navel, has been this kind of knot, which is fine. And I'm kind of accepting that now and looking at that as a blessing. It'll move up to my solar plexus, and then it almost dissipates. And then it feels like the next place to focus on is here, and that just staying with kind of a I can't describe it, but something here, and just and really here's where it all is. But down here was an easier place to deal with here, and now I'm kind of dealing with here. Anyway, I know it sounds weird, and then it well, nothing really sounds weird because the whole thing's weird. But so I'm not even self-conscious about being weird. I mean, the whole thing's weird and
It is weird.
paradoxical and
It
fucked
is.
up.
It is.
So then it almost feels like I want to see through the fog in my mind, because that's like the last thing I need to see through once I get through the shit in my stomach. But I almost want to see it with the, and I know this sounds unusual, forget unusual, with the truth of my stomach, if that makes any sense.
I absolutely hear it, what you're saying, and it's such a fine line here, because if there's a pre-knowledge of what this is going to do or what this tends to do, then it's just going to keep repeating a pattern.
It doesn't feel like knowledge, it feels like a calling.
If it's spontaneous and it just seems like you're pulled into something, because it really will feel like we enter into a state of helplessness, then you'll notice that there's no outcome here. There's no purpose, no reason. It is what it is. It's unpredictable, unknowable. So here's the best recommendation, because it's such a fine line. 50-50 it. Do it the way that it seems to be showing up in this way sometimes, and then
Yeah.
time just let it be entirely organically spontaneous. And then keep 50-50ing it for a while and just see if that's revealing something for you.
That makes sense.
That will
Some,
prevent you from absolutely fixating if there's something subtle there fixating. That's all. And it's not really you fixating, but that's just the nature of the mind. And if it can be really quiet sometimes.
yeah, the mind could be sneaking in. And, yeah.
So now you get a wider breadth. Do the thing, and then maybe completely organic the next time, and
Yeah.
maybe
Play with it.
that's it. Play.
Okay. And I know what it feels like to be kind of in the flow and intuitively, because I'm quite intuitive and I know what it means to follow your intuition instead of your mind, you know? Um, when it happens, when and if it happens. Sometimes when I'm working, not working, you know what I mean, so it doesn't sound like I'm doing too much, but when I'm resting into the knot in my stomach, sometimes it feels overwhelming. Like it's so strong. It's just holding me out. Do you know what I mean?
Okay,
I
this is
guess I just sit and wait.
that we're not waiting for anything. But how close, how much can you be that experience? What that experience is, the overwhelming, is fundamental resistance.
Is what?
It's fundamental resistance. It's resistance that you can't keep track of, nor can you manage. But it's showing you something. So we have to allow the intensity just maximize.
So I want to. Um, and I have a high pain threshold. Like I can do cold plunges, I can do tons of things. And I kind of sit there courageously, but it's almost like my body won't absorb it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm trying to be open to it, but my body just won't absorb it.
This part's hard, mainly because it's not about tolerance at all. If you can pay attention to what tolerance is imparting, tolerance is saying, I will experience this for something else. I will wait it out until it changes into something I can handle. It's a very subtle referencing happening there. What I can point to, the experience that showed here, was there was two thoughts that were very low level. One is, I don't want to die. It was clearly felt like it was going to kill me. The second was, when is this going to end?
Yeah, so it doesn't feel like it's going to kill me. Um, I haven't had that experience. I'd almost welcome it because I'd say, bring it on. It's like I want to be open to it, just the door is not opening. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to have to be a regular engagement as often as feasible.
Oh no, I'm trying to do it not just when I meditate, but I'm
Yeah,
with my wife in the car and she starts dictating everything I should be doing in the car. And it's like, oh, this is an opportunity because I'm getting triggered. Do you know what I mean?
that's it. I mean, truly, here we cannot affect how it shows up, but consider this. Consider that sensation never changes.
Well, hopefully it'll change when I let it in.
See, that's the trick, is maybe it's the signature of what this apparent reality is, and it's always there. So what if it doesn't have to change?
Okay, if it doesn't have to change, but I can't let it in or be one with it, then there's always me in that.
Right, but you are it. And the more often you engage, the more you will start to realize that in the meantime, it's not a waiting game. It's just do your best to allow it to be brand new every time. Don't establish a knowing around this. Same thing with intuition. Be open about that too. Intuition redefines itself. Let it all continuously redefine itself. Let it be brand new every time. That will help a little bit. Also, testing threshold a little bit, which is tricky because we don't necessarily want to create too much of a sense of agency, but it's like
That's what I was thinking.
how far, how deep, how much, and really, it it begins to happen on its own. It becomes entirely unavoidable. That's for sure. But you are in such a subtle place, you know. It's like it's almost like if it isn't broken, don't fix it. It's the antithesis of doing here.
Yeah.
It's perfect though, because I mean, you're essentially, we could just say you're already done. You're cooked. It's complete. Now what's giving what's giving the impression that this is ongoing, or there's something to measure this against? And those things become really apparent. You start to notice just a general sense of positioning, just a
So,
general watching, just a general sense of separate from the thing. And just noticing that becomes interesting.
so it feels like what I'm up against is a regulator, an on-off switch. And my intuition tells me I almost need to go between the current of on-off and put my fingers like this, and then it's one flow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's going to be less that much of an action. It's going to be more
You fall right in between the on-offs. Do you know what I mean by the on-off switch or the regulator?
I do. It's it's there's something still there that's giving a perception of someone experiencing something. And what I can say is fundamentally that sensation is you. It is the awareness. It is attention. It's consciousness. So it's kind of like just regular exposure. And it sounds like that's already occurring. Don't mess with it too much. There's no there's no speeding this up because now time is collapsing as well.
I want to speed it up. You're right. I want to.
You want a
And
solution.
well, I have to let go of anticipation because I've been in that space before, and it's a beautiful space. And I'm human. It's only natural you want to get there. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's also that anticipation is pointing to something. Um, to anticipate something means something right here isn't comfortable or engaged all the way with. Does that make sense? Like you're displacing slightly for a potential future. Instead of doing any of that, you just pull it all into this concentrated, and it can feel rather intense, like you said, and it continue to increase. Allow it to do so. Allow it to become the universe. Or some people will have a feeling of shrinking into it. However it arises, it may be something else for you. Just allow yourself to intuitively play, but don't modify, don't
So
manipulate.
when I was doing that, then it almost felt like, instead of a resistance thing, it almost felt like bubbles were coming out like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be spontaneous and new all the time. And
Yeah, and I guess just so it's a useful conversation because there is no strategy.
that's right. This is where it gets really confusing for the mind. There is no formula anymore.
Because before, the formula of like having the popped out awareness was cool to have in a way, because
Hmm.
it kind of felt like a superpower.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That you could just look and think, yeah, that's not me. I don't want to make that comment. But you still feel like it's not necessarily your core because you've got this popped out awareness, but that's kind of your identity. But then this thing that the mind's creating down here is trying to grab your identity. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like you have an identity war between the two. Do you know?
Yeah, the sensation you're feeling down there is outside of any control. It's spontaneous. It is, and it's not created. It is emptiness.
Oh, so it's not like it's my bullshit ego has created that to stop me from getting there.
That sensation has been there since the moment of birth.
Okay, so it's not something to get rid of or
Right.
to okay, that's important for me to know. It's not my ego creating it. And once I see through it, then I've seen through my ego and I'm in nirvana land.
It's what it is fundamental subject object. The observation of that sensation to rest in that space, this begins to happen just on its own.
Okay.
That sensation, it doesn't mean anything, but it is a fundamental sense of separation.
Okay. So it's something to rest into.
Yeah, and as long as you're not creating the cause and effect story narrative that I sense that you're not, then that has nothing to do with identity. That's where you're headed.
Yeah. If I was to be frank with you instead of telling you what you want to hear, or you know how you do that in a conversation, but I don't want to do that because that's bullshit. Part of me thought it was my ego creating an identity there to stop me from having this popped out awareness of
Ah,
my true identity. And
okay.
so I thought it was my ego tricking me. Do you know what I mean?
That thought was the trick. Do you see how tricky it is now? Every thought is a trick.
So I was thinking, this is my real I amness, because it kind of felt like I am this,
Well,
you know?
it's definitely part of it, but there's an integration happening with that. That observation, the witness, the observer is also this, but there's still a sense of separation there. They merge.
Okay, these two merge.
They
That's what it feels like they need to do. That's why I was trying to hold them both at once. Do you know what I mean?
right. Now go to the thing that feels impossible to figure out.
Okay. So holding them wasn't a bad strategy, the two of them at
No,
once.
no. I mean, what I hear you doing is perfect because I hear experimentation, I hear play. That's it. That's huge. That's curiosity itself right there. Now it's pretty clear that there's something going on. What hasn't been done yet? Merging.
So I've done this, I've done the popped out,
Hmm.
and your view is go in where you traditionally you've got tumbled.
All I can say is this is something that was the same kind of experience here. The only thing that might be slightly different in the experience was it felt like it was yanking into it. There was no choice.
Mine feels like it's a barrier I need to go through, and it's not letting me in.
You might
Or the
notice
body's not letting me in.
you might notice a very subtle holding it at bay. There's a vast difference between acknowledging and accepting.
No, I like that distinction. Acknowledging means you're looking at it with your mind and you're acknowledging it's there. Acceptance is
Well, your
not resisting it.
acknowledgement is there, acceptance is here. And look, you don't have a choice around resistance either. So if you can perceive the resistance, just what your intuition about the space between, that's okay too, because you might perceive of some sense of resistance there. Then to go there, you find, oh, if the space between is resistance and I'm resistance and I'm the observer, and the space between is I'm both of those things, and then there is no space between, becomes
Just 1
apparent.
second. How busy is? Sorry. Can you do that again? Sorry, my daughter just walked in.
All good. So, okay, you have the separation perceived, right? So
Yeah, here and there. Yeah.
here's
I'm
the
not
observer.
trying to be close to it like you told me to be.
Here's the observer. There's this
Yes.
perceived space, and then here's the sensation. If you can start to explore that perceived space like you mentioned, you might start to find that the sense of resistance is that perceived space. You become that sense of resistance, then that means that there is no space. If I am the observer and I am resistance, I am also the sensation. It's collapsing.
If I'm the observer and I
Or just call it the space for now. If I'm the observer and I am the space, then I also have to be the sensation, because there is no separation if I'm the space.
So when I've had that popped out awareness, I have had the sense of it going beyond this into infinite space. And then that's the space that I share with you. And then I've had that sense of just space. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And then it's just space.
Mhm.
But then I always have this little thing in the space. So
that's perfect. If there seems to be anything that's an aberration of the whole thing, then it's asking for attention. That's all.
okay, and then the attention that I give it, do I give it,
All of
well,
it. Give it all the attention.
all of it, okay. So
And
then I almost forget the space and go into that.
yeah, but it's not in spite of the space. It's just that's where attention goes. You're just there. Now there's no space. You see? The subtleties here are so challenging, because the subtlety is something that's holding a sense of two, a sense of two, a sense of two. But it's a good place to be, because fundamental subject object relationship is where all things begin to reveal themselves. So that's why it's so good to just continue staying engaged. Just stay engaged. And don't worry, you can't screw this up. Promise you that. Just kind of continue what you're doing, but remember that you can become the thing that seems to be standing out. You are the thing.
No, I just got your comment with you go all into it and then there is no space between you and that.
Yeah, there's no space at all. Or maybe it's space again. It's impossible to really wrap our head. There's no way to wrap. There's no singular there anymore. That's the funny thing about what's singular is to experience anything in singular, we're still experiencing something in two, because there's someone experiencing something singular. This is beyond that. It's true singularity. You're not observing it, you are it. If you are it, there is nothing else. That's it.
Yeah, that's sort of making sense now. I hope it still makes sense when we get off the phone.
You know, You don't even need to know this intellectually because you already know this fundamentally. So just a reminder, you're set. You can't screw this up.
How long does this process go on for?
Tough to say. For me, it was like 6 months. Some
Fuck,
people,
that's a long time.
yeah, but there was a lot of resistance that I just kept resubscribing to. I didn't want to die. That was this thing. It was this fear of death, which was actually just its own form of resistance. And I wanted it to end. I was projecting a better experience or a relief from the experience.
Natural.
Of course. But this is where you come into contact with that fundamental sense of otherness, because that's all that was, is a sense of something else, something else, something else. That that dies, that dissolves in this. Of course, it's natural, but it also ceases. I don't have any idea. There's nothing for 2 years, nothing. And that's an extreme example. Most people, they just get that big dose, might last a day, couple days, and then they're spontaneously aware of, whoa, and then all of a sudden they realize it's always been this way. So don't worry about outcome here. I can tell you you're going to be fine. It's going to be as if nothing happened. Nobody else is going to notice a damn thing. That's the strangest part. 2 years with the family, with these kids, nobody had a clue. I was like, what were the last few years like? And they're like, well, we went to baseball games. You threw the baseball with me. We went to volleyball, like just the run of the mill family stuff. I was like, huh, well, who the hell was doing that?
I did take time off work, like I quit last June, and I've been taking some courses. But I've actually found that quite helpful, not being engaged in the grind. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
Because it gives you more time to, if I can do a dyad every day for an hour, you know what dyads are.
Mhm.
That's kind of useful for this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, no tool is going to make a difference. But yeah, now you get to see. Let me just put it this way: when you realize it's a game, everything changes. When you realize that this external experience here it's just a game, that's when you realize you can stop playing. In other words, there's no more have to. That's freedom. It doesn't mean we stop doing anything either. That tends not to be the case, but we don't have to. We don't feel like this compulsory aspect of existence, this pressure of living, this Sisyphus experience is gone. That's all. On the external, nobody will know a difference. That's the funny part. It's hilarious.
So each night I wake up at around 3 in the evening, just voluntarily, and I meditate for an hour, doing precisely what we're talking about.
Perfect. I
Is
mean,
that a waste of time?
it's not an alarm, right? You just wake up.
Yeah, my body, it's like a calling. I get up and I'm kind of called to do it.
That's not a waste of time. There's no such thing as a waste of time.
Well, you just said when you realize it's a game and all the stuff you're doing in the external isn't necessary.
Yeah, look, just because it's not necessary doesn't mean we don't do it. Now it's just there's no forcing of anything. So if you find yourself meditating at 3 a.m., what's the problem? Doesn't
Yeah,
sound
there
like
doesn't,
doesn't sound like a problem.
no, it's just when your mind's still and calm.
Sounds perfect to me. I mean, look, this body went from needing like 10 hours of sleep to 3.
Wow.
So that particular time, for some reason, it's like this magic witching hour for whatever our circadian rhythms are. 3 a.m. It's about the time this body wants to wake up anyway.
Okay, then I'm kind of getting it. All this strategy stuff is for naught.
Well, it's not that you're really wasting your time. It has to be the way it is, right? So it's just a matter of, can you let go of letting 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 go like that and ad infinitum. So it if
I
it
I I don't think I can let go.
Well, that's true. The
I can
character,
see and I can feel.
that's it. That's letting
And
go. That's letting go.
if I feel, then it's kind of, I feel my way through it, or I feel it. And that's kind of letting go. But letting go, it just, I'll just,
Yeah, it's not that.
it's like, it's almost letting feel.
But
Do you
what
know what
you're
I mean?
talking, the other thing you're talking about, that's letting go. Same
What
thing.
is?
Feeling,
Oh, yeah,
being with it as is. That's it.
that's
Not
really the whole thing, isn't it?
not identifying with the resistance, which is so strange that there's a subtlety there that human beings are identifying with that feeling of resistance.
I, you're right. It steals your identity.
And so there you go.
So let your identity go there.
If you notice resistance, you can experience resistance without identifying with it. And that's what you're starting to play with now. You're having this fundamental subject object. Identity isn't really involved in that anymore, but there's still something that's perceiving a separation. So that's where the exploration comes in, and you're already exploring and playing naturally. So don't mess with that. Let it keep coming up. Just do your best not to create too much of a formula, because that's where identity starts to come in again.
Okay. All right. Um, so just resting in it.
And when you brought up intensity, that's the signature.
Yeah. So when it gets super intense, or it it feels like it's not, it feels like it gets a force of its own, and it holds me out. Do you know what I mean? Like a nucleus, and I can't blend into it. Do you know what I?
That's okay. Rest there.
Just hang it. Just, yeah. Just
Don't rest at a distance. Don't force yourself in. No leaning now. Just this right in the middle. And then if something is changing, it's happening around you. It's happening to you. You become feather in the wind. There's no more agency or doing here. That is absolute stillness right there.
okay. All
So
right.
let me give you real quick the metaphor that you probably already have heard, but this is literally it. When the Buddha was resting at the base of the Bodhi tree, and Mara, the god of temptation and desire, comes and lights him on fire to get him to react, to do something, he rested in the intensity of the flame and allowed it to burn. Didn't touch it, didn't move, didn't flinch. And
So he did what? He did. What did he do with fire?
he was lit on fire, and he didn't resist the fire. He didn't flinch. He didn't move. He just burned, and without leaning in any direction on any fundamental level either. And that's when he burst into nirvana.
Okay. So it's just sitting with equanimity.
Just sitting, and if it encompasses you, it encompasses you. If you fall into it, you fall into it, but you don't do it. It happens to you, all of it. And at the same time, in the meantime, if there is playing and experimenting, so be it. Doesn't matter. Do it all. Just don't pick a singular route.
Okay.
You can't mess this up. It's too late for you, man.
So I'm in the home stretch.
I mean, that's the way we could put it, but be careful with that, because then there might be something projecting like an endpoint, a platform to be on. This is never ending. This is what engagement is.
So do you still get this feeling?
It's like dying all the time and being reborn all the time.
You just, yeah.
If we don't have a frame of reference and falling, I don't know, I may have brought this up. Then it's indecipherable from weightlessness. And maybe that's enlightenment, to become light, weightless.
You don't hear about this much when you read the books, you know, this part.
It's really hard to talk about. But for some reason, it's resonating with you because you know it now. It's clear now. It's direct.
Because you feel it, like it's
Yeah. It's fundamental. It is, it is to speak about this to someone who isn't in the midst of it would be like attempting to describe the flavor of a strawberry and expect them to taste it. Words don't work.
it's almost like you're melting
Mhm.
around this
Let it be
until
however. I mean, it
melts it away.
get really, you already talked about the weird. It can get really weird. Let it get as weird as it's going to get.
Okay. And don't figure it out because then, yeah.
Can't. Nothing to figure out. And if that happens, it's not a problem. Don't resist that if that's what seems to be going on. Be with that experience, and what you'll find is to be with the experience of the struggle to figure something out is the same. It is this. It just keeps showing up. Boom, boom, boom. It's fractals of the same thing. It is all this. And then you'll see the signature of this, and everything is this. There is no separation. If you are the space, then what's separate?
But I'm going into it until there is no space.
Maybe, but there's no goal. It could reveal itself in a completely unpredictable, strange, paradoxical way. That's just the way
Okay.
it's
So
going.
then the view is just stick with it.
That's it.
Just be with it.
Be with it, be it. But when I
Be
say
it.
be it, there tends to be a question of how do I do that? I cannot answer that.
But it will.
That's right. It'll show you.
Yeah, it will show you.
That's right.
So it's kind of the boss.
That's right.
And there goes your agency
Quite a bit.
because it's showing you.
I mean, in ways that we couldn't even comprehend.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
It's like coming into contact with a superior alien technology, and we're just like, eh?
So instead of resisting or letting go, it's almost surrendering.
It's like it's really strangely, it's neither letting go or surrendering, nor is it resisting. It's something else. But you already know the signature of that. Don't worry about figuring that out. It
No,
it
'cause that just gets in the way.
it's fundamental paradox. It cannot ever be understood.
Okay, so just let it just just
There you go.
just
Yeah.
just. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. That's it. I mean, this is where we start.
That's where the teacher almost just, and then you say just, and then you say something just. It's like you're wasting my time. You're wasting just.
That's it. Yeah.
But just
It's that immediate. It's
what just.
it's smacking you in the face, essentially, you know? Reality. Wow. Like that. It can also have a softness. I mean, really, I don't want to create expectation because it's not, that's going to ruin the just, you see?
No, because yeah,
I promise you this. You're doing perfectly. Just keep going. That's
I
it.
kind of feel I am.
Yeah. I mean, this is a superior or supreme trust.
Yeah,
That's
I
it.
think in the next 45 minutes I should be there.
Just,
That's not just teasing.
just.
Yeah.
This changes everything. It changes nothing. It's like that. It's so strange. It's familiar, but completely new.
Yeah. And I do have models in my head that it connects the flow, and then the flow just I feel it come through me and out. And do you know what I mean? And you're seeing truth. And I've had that feeling before. Do you know what I mean?
Go like this. There's an improv aspect to this. Maybe with every model, maybe. And that prevents any grasping of the model. Then we're not identifying with the model. Do you see it? The model isn't a problem. It's the identification that creates that sense of separation.
Because you
So
lose that just.
so the model comes up, maybe, no problem. Maybe.
Yeah. And if I was in a different state, I'd find that irritating saying that. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it will definitely help because those models, it's like the last hurrah of this identity. Identify with this. Identify with this. Come on. There's something that's graspable here. Identify with it. And you're just gonna go, maybe.
Okay.
And the maybe is the just. Do you see it? The maybe brings you right back to the just.
To the just because it's always changing, not just the just.
It's always changing, and when you're with it, it's like a perpetual interesting mystery. It's moving, it's dynamic. You're not,
But you're in the flow.
that's right. And you're not frozen, but even then, to know what the flow is, you gotta just be buried in it all the time. And you do know the flavor of the flow. You do, but we're talking with no departure now. There's no break from the flow now.
So once you get through this, or once this happens, then that's kind of liberation, right?
Well, yeah, maybe. See,
I would think that is it.
I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I would think it would be.
Do you see that? Do you see that really subtle like expectation forming right there?
Yeah.
Oh, then I'll be done. Done with what?
Suffering.
The funny thing here is to realize that we're never done is actually where the freedom is.
Then why bother?
I mean, that's a good question. There's no reason. I mean, there is no reason, no purpose. Just is. An example is there's this group of gazelle in South Africa. They're springboks, and in the springtime, they start doing this particular action that they call pronking, where they jump really high and they like kind of freeze for a second before landing again, like that. And the scientists have studied over and over and over, and they're like, we don't know why they're doing it. The only thing we can come up with is because they're doing it. That's it. There's no other purpose. That's what it's kind of like that. Just because. That's, Spanish gives us a hint in language too. The word for why is, or the why is two words, porque, and the word because is those two words put together, porque. So you could literally have that conversation. Somebody could say porque, and then you could just say porque. Why? Because. But why? Because. Why? Because. That's what this is.
It's not the answer I was looking for.
I know it's like a cosmic joke though. And when you get the punchline, it's a totally different thing.
Okay. All right. Well, I think I've got my marching orders.
Yeah, well, you already know. So just keep swimming.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, have a fun adventure.
I think I mean if I have other questions, I'll book another session, but I think I'm I think I know what I need not to do.
That's right. Don't mess with this. You
Just
don't have to.
just let it be.
That's right.
Not
Pause it.
even try to let go, not try to surrender.
That's right.
Just just
Every leaning is a resistance.
every trying, every figuring it out, every observation. I mean, that's good in the beginning because you need the thorn to take out the thorn, but then
Yeah. Now it gets rather mysterious. It's what we call
just take
press.
your hands off the, just like,
Just,
just,
just
yeah.
that's it.
So that's what my meditation will be, is just, it's not even meditating, it's just
Yeah. I mean,
being.
probably won't even be able to find a line between meditation and everything else because there isn't.
Yeah, because I'm kind of in that state now.
That's right. When are you not? When have you ever not been? That can't be answered because it's never been the case. It's always been this way.
And I can feel it within me.
Mhm.
And I just sit with that.
Yep. And look, that might actually mean that sometimes you're dynamically in motion, having a conversation with your daughter, and you're still very aware of that. It's always there. It's always here.
Wow, what a funny path.
You right?
Because for a while there, I had this sense of connection, and that moved up and down, and it was quite an amazing experience. And that's gone now, and now it's this. Do you know what I mean?
It'll keep doing whatever it does too. So
All right, I'll be open. Someone told me a good story once, and it was a guy who was in a house with a flood, and the flood started getting higher and higher on his first floor, and he went up to the second floor and said, God, please help me. And then a car came by and said, can I give you a hand? No, 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 God's going to take care of it. And then, he was on the roof, and then a boat came by and, can I help you? No, 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 I'm good. And then a helicopter came, and then he was flooded and killed. And at the pearly gates, he said, why didn't you help me? And God said, what do you mean? I sent a car, I sent a boat, and I sent a helicopter, so just be open to whatever.
that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. And that's kind of the just. All right. Thank you very much for your kindness. And in a way, you're coaching. In a way, you're just not, at least at this stage. Do you know what I mean? It's almost your your coaching is almost take your hands off the controls. You're not driving the bus.
Yeah. You've always had it. Nobody could have given it to you. Just like that.
And so it's almost not a pep talk, but you're on the right track.
That's it.
Just keep whatever.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, yeah. Whenever if something comes in, just be open.
Whatever it is what it is. Just like that.
which is the worst thing for your ego to hear
Yes. It
because
does,
it's helplessness.
it doesn't understand acceptance because if ego had a name, it would be resistance.
Yeah, it's acceptance. It's more than, yeah, it's, I kind of get, it's weird, but I, I, I think I have what I need.
You do.
So, sorry to keep talking. It's just I keep worrying if I get off, then I'm going to lose it. Do you know what I mean? But I think I know what you mean.
Too late for you now. You're not going to lose anything.
No, I'm committed.
You don't even have to be committed.
It's going to happen.
You're already, it's happening. It's happened. You're done. Just, just.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much. That was really helpful. It's probably a really weird thing to do on your side, but maybe this is the easy time.
No, these are my, this is the, well, I can only speak to now, of course, but it's my favorite.
Because you know it's the tide is coming in and it's whatever's going to happen happens.
This is the good stuff.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You were at a pivotal time.
Nice to see you.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks
Mhm.
a lot. Really very kind of you to take the time.
Glad to be here. Very glad.
I caught you at a great time. Last time you were saying, stop negotiating. And I was worried you're going to say that this time. And I was thinking, oh, that's just a formula.
I don't hear negotiation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, oh, fuck it. I don't want to fight anymore, you know?
Right. There's nothing to fight anyway. I mean, it's like watching somebody having a
I'm
knife
not going to win. I'm not going to
punching the
win.
air. And you wake them up and they're still punching the air and they look around and they go, oh, oh,
I think that's what it's like.
it's very much like that.
Yeah, and I just, you get to the point where you just don't want to fight anymore.
This is what readiness is. It just is.
Yeah, I don't want to fight anymore.
Well, you're not. So
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm getting ready. You know, I feel, well, whatever. Yeah.
nothing to
Just
nothing to prepare for. You couldn't anyway.
part of me feels I can, but I just have to just that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it is, and that becomes so effortless because it keeps popping up. Just, ha ha ha, maybe, and then before you realize it, it's just like so pervasive. That's it. You're doing it
But
naturally.
I know what that is. It's almost settling into the regulator. Do you know what I mean? Which is the on-off switch, the fight, the flight,
Mhm.
the bullshit. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like it's like this, and then when you settle into it more, it's like this, and then it's
Yeah. There's a scientific instrument. Well, not an instrument. It's actually kind of like a toy. It's called Euler's disc. It's a pretty thick disc and it's on a semi-concave mirror, and they spin it by hand, and it spins for like 3 or 4 minutes. And at the very end, when it's, like a coin, how it's starting to roll like this on the table before it comes to a stop, it's spinning so quickly that it almost looks like it's frozen, but you can hear it shh, and then all of a sudden stop. That's what this is like too.
okay. All right. Okay, thank you, Josh. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all day. And really, I just need to, it's just comforting, you know?
Yeah, that's part of this.
Thank you, my friend.
Nice to see you.
All right, bye-bye.